What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Furibee Darkmax 220. You know, I think there's a Furibee in every 5 to 10 millimeter increments now. I just reviewed the X215, which was great, by the way. Just looking at the specs, I have a feeling the Darkmax is going to be just as great. This 220mm 5-inch race drone is available in 5 variations. You have your typical receiver options like the FR Sky, Fly Sky, DSMX, as well as a plug-and-play model in case you don't want to use one of the offered receivers. I think the Darkmax definitely has one of the more aggressive looking styles. The sharp jagged lines on a low profile body absolutely looks good. But is it going to perform as good as it looks? Well, hopefully we can find out in this review. Alright, let's take a closer look. And let's start off with the frame. This is a true X frame and it's definitely unique. The front portion of the frame actually has an action camera mount built right into it. The main plate is 4mm thick, making it very durable. The side plates are 2mm thick and the top plates are 1.5mm thick. In case you're looking to purchase just the frame, here are a couple different measurements. Alright, so first off, the area for your boards is 19 by 39 millimeters. So unless you plan on cutting into the side plates, you can use a maximum of just 2 levels. The other measurement shown here is the hole for the Velcro strap for your action camera. And the measurements here are 19.2 by 28 millimeters, and they are taken from the inner walls. And also the arm width is 15 millimeters wide. Next up, let's check out these motors. I'm not sure whether these motors were made specifically for the Darkmax or not, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't go with an off-brand. The reason why I say this is because I looked online to try to find more information on these motors, but I couldn't find anything specifically on them. In fact, most of the links that popped up were actually for the Darkmax 220. Anyways, these motors are DYS SR2205s and they're rated at 2550 kV. They are actually very nice motors. They definitely pass the finger spin test. They feel super smooth and the bells feel nice and tight where there's no up and down play or side to side play. My experience with DYS motors have always been good, and these motors are no exception. Alright, let's see how they perform. Alright, let's do a punch out. There is plenty of power on hand, which is always great for you power junkies out there. I think it feels a little loose or overly sensitive. I guess I bumped the rates up a little bit too high, but this is an easy fix. Honestly, I think the Darkmax has a ton of power. It's super smooth, super responsive. I think it's pretty clear to say that we're on the right track here. Let's do another one for good measure. Smooth, responsive, powerful, and hopefully durable. I haven't had any bad crashes yet, so I can't say for certain, but I think these are definitely a great set of motors. Moving right along, we have some 30 amp BL Heli S ESCs, which are in the form of a 4-in-1 board. With a 4-in-1, not only are we getting a cleaner setup, that's less wires, less clutter, but obviously with less mass, and more importantly, I think there's a significant weight reduction over running 4 separate boards. The ESC can run protocols from 1-shot all the way up to D-Shot 600 and come with BL Heli S version 16.6, which I believe is the most up-to-date firmware as of November 9th. For the flight controller, we have something pretty cool. It's an Omnibus F4 with built-in OSD and VTX. It's not so often that I see a VTX built into the flight controller, so that's pretty cool. It's pretty great that all of these components take up no more space than a 2-level stack. This flight controller has everything you would expect out of your standard Omnibus boards. That's features like an SD card slot, Betaflight OSD, current sensor, and with this one, a video transmitter. There are separate buttons for the channel, power, as well as a boot button for the actual flight controller. I really don't use this, but for the VTX there are little LEDs that tell you which channels and bands you're on. Most of the time I just choose a random channel on my quad and then hit the auto search button on my goggles, and I'll just repeat until I get a clear enough channel. I like how the VTX uses a pigtail to connect the antenna. I can say from personal experience that this will in fact save you from headaches from a broken VTX connector. I mean, the worst that can happen is the SMA connector falls off in a crash, which is unlikely, but in the rare case that it does break, all you gotta do is plug in a new IPEX pigtail. The built-in video transmitter has a switchable power scheme with 3 levels. You have a 25 milliwatt, which is perfect for nearby racing and when you have multiple pilots flying at the same time, and then 100 and 200 milliwatts, which will basically give you longer range. The 5.8 gigahertz VTX is supposed to be good for up to 600 meters, at least that's what it says, but with these race drones, they're not really meant for flying far distances. All I can say is I had no issues with the video reception. Oh, and also you have 48 available channels. The clip you've been watching is through a 960H camera. It has a CCD sensor and uses a 2.5mm lens. It actually felt very natural to me. There were cameras before that really gave off a strong fisheye effect, and this caused me to get disoriented even. But then again, this is something you'll most likely get accustomed to after a few flights anyways. The tilt angle is rather limited. There's not much space between the flight controller and the camera, so you're not going to be able to adjust the camera angle very much in either direction. One other thing, this might be an issue for beginners because the lowest possible tilt angle might be a little bit extreme for those who are just starting out. I know for me, when I just started FPV flying, I needed the camera to be almost horizontal. On the back of the camera there is an OSD toggle that allows you to adjust the camera settings. These are things like brightness, contrast, exposure, and much more. It was meant to be sort of a convenience thing where you can easily reach in and change the settings on the fly, but due to a very confined space, on the fly adjustability isn't really possible. You would have to at least remove the top plate to gain access to the toggle. So kind of unfortunate. But for me, it's not that big of a deal. I think the picture quality is already amazingly good right out of the box. On the back of the quad there are 4 LEDs. I set them up using the Larson scanner feature in Betaflight, but you can easily adjust them to however you want. The power connector is pretty long in my opinion. The issue is the long cables might get caught up in the propeller, so what I've been doing is I turn the battery around, so instead of connecting it up like this, I now do this. The Darkmax is another great addition to the Furibee lineup. I mean, it's almost to be expected with all the components that it's built with. There are just so many good things to say about this drone. The frame is good quality carbon fiber, and at 4mm thick, the main plate should be able to handle most crashes. The motors make the Darkmax one powerful mini drone, and it flies great too. Oh, and the picture quality coming from the camera, super detailed, bright, vibrant. I think the Darkmax exceeded my expectations, especially for a mini drone that's priced the way that it's priced. Right now there is a sale on the FR Sky version for just $150. $150, that is a steal. It's a flash sale that is gonna end in around a day from now, so you gotta be quick with it. But even at the normal price, it's still a pretty good deal. Alright guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this one, but since I recorded a bunch of flight vids, here are a couple more.
Very good power.
Furibee, 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 Furibee.